Well, that's a good place. That's a good place to start. Let's open that. Let's open that up. It's such a pleasure to be here at the Toms River location of the Salvation Army, right here on Route 37. Privileged to be here with Major John, who was the officer, ordained minister, and kind of heads this whole. As a core of the operation, the volunteers, and I think Larry exemplifies the spirit of the volunteer of the Salvation Army. Somebody that's been helped just told us about Hurricane Sandy.
That's right.
And we are here because the Center for Cause Awareness, in conjunction with Harvest Donation, supports this organization as well as we can through the donations from Wawa, primarily Longhorn Steakhouse, and in Chipotle. I've just in the 45 minutes we've been here and talking to Major John and seeing you at work here, we've learned a great deal about the Salvation Army. And when we think of the Salvation Army, mainstream, I can tell you when I talk to people about, we give these through donations, through the Salvation Army, through St. Dominic's, through United Methodist. Salvation Army comes up with, they're the folks outside with the bells at Christmas time, with the bells at Christmas time. And understanding the Salvation Army, understanding that when you say Salvation Army, the breadth of service involves hotel and lodging, food service, warehousing, trucking, human resources, a lot of people, a lot of staff, a lot of volunteers, retail clothing, emergency preparedness, and all around, really, the preaching of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's the glue that cements all these services together. It's to God be the glory. And, in the works and providing food and nourishment and spiritual guidance if asked, that's where the mission really comes to fruition. The Wawa is a little bit of what happens.
A little tasty bit.
A little tasty bit. We have one quote I love from one person, I haven't gotten my life together yet. I really get messed up, but it's such a relief knowing I got my Wawa breakfast sandwich waiting for me in the refrigerator. And I think I'd like to start out with Major John. The position of an officer in the Salvation Army. Career or calling?
It's a calling, for real. If you entered it as a career, usually you're going to burn out. So it's a calling from God, and takes all different kinds of people. You listed many great things that the Salvation Army does. I want to, streamline that a little bit to say we do everything, but we don't do everything everywhere. So some of the things you listed we don't do here. We have our own programs here, but we do them someplace. And so usually the Salvation Army steps in. I can do whatever I can afford to do if I see a need. If there's a need and I have the funding for it, the Salvation Army gives me and my wife, we run this place together, Major Rhonda, gives me the latitude and freedom to help people as the local situation requires. If we have the funding, I can do pretty much whatever I want. So usually what the Salvation Army does is we come in and see what's not being done or what's not being done totally, and try to enter into that rather than compete with very good organizations and groups that are already doing something in the area. So when you say hotel business, well, we don't have that here. But we do a feeding program. We do have a food pantry. We do have character building programs for girls and boys. We do have a summer day camp. There are a lot of things we do that maybe another corps wouldn't do, but we do it here because it was a need that we saw. And so that's usually how the Salvation Army operates. We try to meet people in need at their point of need.
It's, the financial constraints are something that hits us all. Center for Cause Awareness. We have our funding and we have our financial constraints. If we had the finances to do what we wanted to do, God only knows where we would be. It would be wonderful, but we have the financial realities. And one of the key things for any organization that's operating, whether it's faith-based organization, whether it's secular organization, is personnel. And the core of so many of the delivery, ability for us to deliver the services we need, is the spirit of the volunteer. And volunteers range from, I was at the food bank and almost got ran over by Bruce Springsteen on a pallet jack, volunteering in that spirit, to Larry, who was impacted by Sandy and was a benefactor of the grace of the Salvation Army. And in your being here, Larry, what are you feeling coming here every Thursday, portioning out these Wawas accordingly? And
I just think there's people in need, and I'm happy to help out.
you were one of those people in need,
Right.
and the Salvation Army really proved that it walks the walk and talks the talk.
Right, and they're
Both.
there for the community for the long haul, you know. Like you mentioned, the faith-based organizations remain in the community, and they're continually providing services to the people. So, you know, there's a lot of volunteers that come in here every Thursday to help out, and I'm just one of them, you know. So it takes a whole community of volunteers to support people like the Salvation Army or any of the other faith-based organizations in order to take care of the community.
And we've mentioned faith-based a number of times, and that really is the core of the core of the Salvation Army. But it was made very clear that when somebody comes into the Salvation Army or seeks help, they're always invited. They know they can be invited or share in worship, or share in a blessing, or share in a breaking of the bread, but they don't have to. They don't have to. What the person out there can understand is that the Salvation Army represents a place to rest, a safe place to be, to get yourself together, to think of what your family really need to go to the next step. There's no master plan or collusion, and although they're invited, they don't have to go to the meeting, as we call the worship service. In the traditional Salvation Army terms, it's the meeting.
It's a meeting, yeah. Well, you know, Salvation Army is all over the world. We're in 128 countries and 1,000 places in the United States, and so we don't do everything perfectly. There are incidences where if somebody saw this interview, they would say, well, that's not what happened to me. And we're not angels and we're not perfect, and sometimes we make mistakes. But our official policy and the policy that we're supposed to uphold in the Salvation Army is everybody is welcome at the Salvation Army. And nobody is turned away for some of the various things that people sometimes are singled out for. But do we agree with everybody? No. I don't know anybody who does. But we do try to have compassion for people's problems and what they have to go through. And so it's nice of you to say that it's a place of rest. From your lips to God's ear, I hope it always is a place of rest. But having said that, we don't do things perfectly. We try. But, you know, because whenever we do an interview like this, somebody will go on Facebook and say, well, that didn't happen to me. I was treated poorly or something. People are people.
Yeah.
People are people, and we're all under stress sometimes. But that's our aim. That's what we try to do. That's what we think God wants us to do. And so we try to help people as best we can.
Yeah. We're all under stress. We all make decisions, and we all have the frailty of our human manifestation. You know, all of us share that in common. You know, try. But here's something that's very interesting, and I want to make this very clear and get a reaction. From my research, when you donate $1 to the Salvation Army. $1, 82 cents goes to program services within the Salvation Army mission. That's extraordinary in today's not-for-profit scene. 82 cents out of every dollar goes towards that programmed effort that gives that person the rest, the ability to get back into society if they're willing to do that.
Well, that's the full resources that the Salvation Army would have available, not just cash, but all resources that we have. So a dollar's worth of either cash or something that's been donated to us, yes, that's 82 to 86 cents of every dollar of resources goes to direct assistance, if you want to call it that, or direct programming. The other thing is 90% of any funds that are given to the Salvation Army locally are used locally. If you don't restrict them. Remember, we had a conversation about restricted and unrestricted donations.
Yes.
All unrestricted donations that come into the Toms River Salvation Army are used in Toms River, except for a small amount that we pass up the line for administration.
And I want to emphasize that in any community, Toms River, Ocean County, Monmouth County, any community where there's a Salvation Army, the folks at the Salvation Army really understand the priorities and needs of that community. The ideal, the home run, I believe, in any donation, any sincere donation to the Salvation Army is the unrestricted donation. With the track record of this organization and responding to local priorities, that's what we're going to advocate for. And I was so glad to hear that the donations are so respected, that there's also a flip side of the coin. Some of the restrictions on the donation could prevent some needed services in a local community. I would rely on people like Major John, the volunteers, the staff, administration of these local Salvation Armies to understand where the money has to be put. I would, and from here going on, any donation I made is going to be an unrestricted donation. I'm going to put that on the check.
Well, then it'll have to be unrestricted.
Yes, I'm going to put that on the check, unrestricted donation.
But the flip side of that coin, though, is as well, earthquake relief or Sandy or any kind of disaster that happens. We respect that, and that's where the money gets used.
That's important to state. Salvation Army is the origin of the word integrity. Tajir, one. You are what you represent. You are what you are. And if anything, with the Salvation Army, there's a great deal of integrity, and that's very important. I would like to close with a quote that I got this from the Salvation Army website, and it's meant a great deal. It says a lot in terms of understanding the Salvation Army look upon its constituents, its public. It's the people that the Salvation Army is there to serve. If I understand how you see the world, I can better understand you. It's that leap of faith, wanting to see things from your constituents' perspective, the willingness to do that, and the openness to be able to do that. Not coming in with preset agendas necessarily, but coming in with some flexibility. And when that subject, when that person, when that human being comes in the door, that willingness to see the world from their eyes makes such a unique, it's a gift. That's a gift. That's a mitzvah.
Mhm.
It's a sacrament.
Well, it's nice of you to say that. That's a nice thing to say about anybody. I hope and pray that we can live up to your compliment.
We hope and pray. We hope and pray. And our pleasure, and on behalf of Wawa, Longhorn Steakhouse, Chipotle, this is our last meal for the summer, right here, this day. but we open up again in September, and I could see something already that we could do for Larry, like pre-sorting. Pre-sorting the Wawa stuff, I could see would save you some time.
It would, but
Yeah, it's good to
the
see
most
that.
important thing is we get the food.
Yeah.
Because I don't mind sorting it.
Right.
That's the easiest part of, what it does for these people in the community.
Right.
Besides, he likes that job.
He likes it, yeah, why take that away?
Yeah.
Larry, thank you so much.
Excuse my
Major
glove.
John, thank you so much for the interview.
And thank you to Wawa and Chipotle.
Yes, we really appreciate
and
your
Longhorn.
donations.
And get it right?
You got it.
Thank you.